Drop a needle on a typical mid-1970s pop record, and you hear a straightforward, catchy tune. Drop a needle on ABBA's Waterloo, and the speakers practically explode with sheer physical density. The weight of the chorus pushes air across the room. In the recording industry at that time, achieving that kind of immense sonic scale usually meant turning to a specific blueprint, producer Phil Spector. Spector's legendary wall of sound relied on raw volume. He would cram dozens of musicians, multiple guitarists, pianists, and horn sections into a tiny studio space. By drenching the recording in heavy reverb, the individual instruments bled together, colliding them into a solid mass of noise, where you couldn't tell where a piano ended and a guitar began. Two Swedish musicians, Benny Andersson and Björn Ulvaeus, admired that massive volume. Yet they found the blurry, muddy execution of Spector's technique inadequate for the highly structured music they wanted to create. Before ABBA formed, Benny and Björn spent their time studying and composing for the stage. Their deepest training lay in the storytelling and grand scale of musical theater. They understood exactly how an orchestra pit and a stage ensemble worked together to build precise emotional arcs. They needed a way to translate the distinct, multi-layered physical architecture of a theatrical stage into an audio-only pop record. They set out to build a sonic opera house. A stage play relies on a large cast to project power across a crowded room. Benny and Björn brought this exact concept into the recording studio. Vocalists Agnetha Feltskog and Anni Frid Lyngstad served as the raw architectural material for this ensemble. They provided the distinct timbers required to construct a massive sonic cast. The producers deployed an extreme multi-tracking technique. Instead of simply recording standard harmony parts, they instructed Agnetha and Anni Frid to sing the exact same unison melodies over and over again. They would multiply out these identical vocal takes, layering them relentlessly. By stacking their own voices upon themselves dozens of times, the two singers physically expanded. The isolated tracks combined into a thick, glowing, unified choral texture. This strict layering method turns standard pop tracks into operatic ensemble pieces. It gave ABBA the vocal weight of a modern Greek chorus. Most pop music of the era relied on a continuous driving loop to keep people dancing. A live theatrical script, however, relies on breathing room and tension to hold an audience's attention. ABBA engineered deliberate structural arcs into their tracks, pacing them like miniature three-act plays. They dictated the exact pace of the listener's emotional journey. This chart maps the audio waveform of an ABBA hit against a three-act theatrical arc. You see a shimmering introduction, followed by a pulsing verse that steadily builds the rising action. Then, right before the chorus, the audio abruptly drops to sudden, complete silence. That absolute drop to 0 decibels acts as a dramatic pause. It maximizes the suspense in the room before the tension finally releases into the massive chorus. Deploying negative space to force an emotional payoff shows they were constructing highly scripted experiences. Every pause serves a distinct narrative purpose. A stage play also relies on its physical set design to establish a scene. For an audio recording, visual scenery has to be translated entirely through instrumentation. The sparkling pianos, punchy horns, and sweeping strings in ABBA's tracks served a specific function. They acted as vast, complex sonic set pieces, physically occupying space in the stereo field. Take the sweeping strings in Dancing Queen. The moment those lavish orchestral lines hit the ear, they instantly construct a grand, elegant ballroom in the listener's mind. Compare that to Knowing Me, Knowing You. The song opens with an isolated, poignant guitar motif, setting a highly intimate, tragic stage for a story about a failing relationship. From the studio console, Benny and Björn managed these instruments like actors hitting their marks. Each musical line played a specific character role to paint these vivid emotional landscapes. Every single instrument placed in the mix was a deliberate production choice, contributing directly to the emotional staging of the track. The 1970s disco aesthetics and catchy melodies often distract from ABBA's actual structural brilliance. At their core, Benny and Björn were highly rigorous producers who hijacked the standard pop music format to stage elaborate musical theater. They married the sheer brute force density of Phil Spector's wall of sound with the emotional precision, structural pacing, and immense vocal power of the stage. This specific synthesis of theater and studio engineering permanently expanded the scale, density, and dramatic potential of recorded pop music. The next time you hear an ABBA track, try to listen past the melody. Listen for the massive choral architecture, the strategic silences, and the opening of the theater curtains.